What if the protest you watched on the news wasn't a protest at all? What if a Marine veteran getting his arm broken on the Senate floor was a calculated distraction, timed down to the minute, to pull cameras away from something much bigger happening right outside? That's what federal investigators say they found when they cracked the Meridian Atlantic servers. What happened next is one of the most layered federal takedowns ever described on U.S. soil, and the math behind it is going to genuinely surprise you. Let me know in the comments if you saw this coming. 3 tons, every single week. Moving through the Eastern Seaboard, and not a single major alert triggered anywhere along the route. Investigators working Operation Iron Curtain didn't accidentally stumble onto a drug network. What they found looked exactly like a fully built logistics company. Because that's exactly what it was. Real paperwork, real employees, real business addresses, the kind of operation that blends in because it's designed to look like everything around it. When you lay out 43 shell companies and 16 ghost corporations spread across 9 countries, it doesn't look like crime. It looks like a mid-size import-export business that files taxes on time and has a decent accountant. That's the point. The structure wasn't sloppy, it was deliberate, and it was built to pass a casual inspection without raising flags. Each shell company had a specific job inside the network. Some held real estate, actual properties, actual addresses, actual value on a balance sheet. Some moved agricultural goods, so there were real shipping records attached to real cargo. And some existed only on paper in Delaware, doing absolutely nothing except receiving wire transfers and passing them forward. By the 3rd or 4th transfer, the money looked clean. That's how layering works, and these guys were very good at it. The 16 ghost corporations registered abroad were the offshore layer of all this. Places like the Cayman Islands and Dubai don't ask a lot of questions about where incoming money comes from. So that's where the routing went first. Offshore, then bounced back into U.S. accounts looking like legitimate foreign investment. By the time it landed domestically, it had already touched enough entities that tracing it back got very complicated very fast. Now here's where the physical side of this connects. Actual trucks, actual warehouses, actual shipping manifests getting stamped through at ports. And investigators say directly, certain CBP officers, that's Customs and Border Protection, were on the cartel's payroll. These aren't allegations about people looking the other way. These are 23 corrupt officers working across Virginia and Maryland who were actively part of the operation. 3 tons of drugs weekly doesn't move by accident. It moves because someone altered a port inspection record or flagged a container as already cleared when nobody had touched it, or just didn't show up for a shift at exactly the right moment, so a specific truck could roll through without getting checked. That's what those 23 officers were actually doing, not just taking money, performing specific tasks inside the system that kept the supply chain moving on schedule. So the reason no major alerts got triggered isn't because the network was hiding from the system. It's because the network had people inside the system doing the hiding for them. That's a completely different problem for investigators, right? You can build better scanners and better algorithms, but if the person running the scanner is on someone else's payroll, the technology doesn't matter. And the 43 companies made the money side invisible on paper. Even if someone looked directly at the financials, what they'd see is a web of legitimate-looking entities moving money between each other in ways that each individually makes sense. You'd need to map all 43 at once, across 9 countries to see the actual shape of it. The answer to how this stayed invisible for so long is sitting inside a server room in Virginia, and what federal agents pulled off those drives connects everything straight into a Senate hearing room. When federal agents walked into the Meridian Atlantic Policy Group offices, they didn't know what they'd find. What they found was a server room still running, live, active transfers moving in real time while agents were standing right there looking at the screens. The setup inside that room was not small. At least 40 external hard drives were attached to a concealed server rack, and one of the main terminals was running a financial routing platform that was still processing transfers. We're talking about $91 million moving between accounts in the Cayman Islands, Mexico City, Dubai, and a Delaware shell entity. All of it visible on screen while the raid was happening. Investigators didn't have to reconstruct what the network was doing. They could just watch it. Now, 4 of the charities connected to this network were veteran-focused, and that's the part that's genuinely hard to sit with. These weren't fake websites with no history. They had real names, real donation pages, and real veterans listed as beneficiaries. Money was actually flowing through them, just not to veterans. Here's how that worked. Someone donates to what looks like a charity supporting Marine vets. That donation gets recorded and gets a tax receipt, so it looks completely legitimate. Then the charity pays a contractor, which is actually a shell company, for outreach services that were never performed. Nobody showed up. Nobody did any work. The invoice just got paid. That contractor then passes the money to another entity, and by the 3rd or 4th transfer, it's been run through what looks like charitable giving. So on paper, this money touched a veterans charity, paid a contractor, moved to an investment account, and now it looks clean. Donors had no idea. Some of them were probably actual veterans donating to help other veterans. The cartel took that goodwill and used it as a washing machine for drug money. That's what was happening. So then investigators start pulling the digital records off those drives, and this is where it shifts from a drug and money laundering case into something that goes a lot further. One of the secure communication devices tied directly to the live routing platform was registered to a Senate office. Not a staffer's device, not shared equipment. The device fingerprint showing up as a command-level node inside the financial routing system was registered to Senator Raymond Alcott himself, and investigators were clear about what that means. This is not bribery. Bribery is someone handing a politician cash to look the other way and stay out of it. What the device evidence showed was active participation. Investigators used the phrase command-level collusion, meaning Alcott wasn't just aware of the operation. His device was functioning as a node that had command-level access inside the routing system. They also found a document the investigators referred to as Framework Permanence. It laid out a decade-long plan to embed cartel influence across multiple levels of government, not a short-term bribe, a long-term structural strategy. So the charities gave the network a clean story to tell regulators. The ghost corporations gave the money a place to disappear offshore, and the Meridian servers showed all of it connected in real time to one senator's device. Let me know in the comments if you'd heard anything about the Meridian raid before this, because what happened next inside the Russell Senate building is where everything those servers revealed got put to use in a way nobody in that hearing room expected.